Objection! Hello, everypony! I'm MasterCode, your ace analyst, and today we're going to be taking a look at two comics today, issues number 14 and 15 of the G5 comics. Izzy is preparing the Bright House to have a traditional unicorn sleepover with her old crafting protege from Bridlewood, Violette Rainbow, a painted horse who looks so adorable. Aww. So, from the synopsis, the filly's spotted coat is due to a biological condition called vitiligo, which causes discoloration patches on the skin, and ends up being the primary focus of the story, with Violette coming to terms with her condition. I was interested to see her growth and acceptance over the subject matter, as she does admit she's been bullied. But as the story progresses, the focus is kind of lost. The comic starts out decent enough, with Izzy and Violette having a cheery reunion. Both acknowledge the trouble she's experienced back home. However, Izzy says she'll be available to talk to Violette whenever she is ready, which is a nice little moment. No, the problems start once they leave the Bright House and Izzy starts showing her around town. They visit the community garden, and during the tour, Violette wants to water the flowers, but accidentally gets wrapped up in the hose and ends up tripping and spraying another pony, who promptly runs away at the sight of her. Then later, at Sunny's smoothie cart, Violette accidentally smashes into a vegetable stand, knocking over everything and causing Posey to slip and fall, with her pissed off as usual. And various other misfortunes follow her throughout the day. The story and moral started off about a pony who has a physical deformity, and seeing how they eventually accept it, learn to live with it, and not care what others think. Now all of a sudden you throw in this random bad luck gimmick, huh? Yeah, throughout the comic, ponies are constantly eyeballing her painted coat, but the whole bad luck gimmick just feels intrusive, pushing aside something real, the whole lesson about someone accepting their personal appearance. And it's just an element that feels forced in just to garner more sympathy for her. And in fact, the electrical fire that starts in main melody was technically caused by Izzy accidentally knocking the smoothie out of Violette's hand? What the hell's a hand? Anyway, all of this is just to drive up the conflict, and at no further point during this story does the poor filly have an accident caused by her clumsiness, and thus feels completely pointless. Now, before we get to the rest of the story, let's talk about something else that really bothered me, that being the transitions between comic frames, or lack thereof at times. I'll elaborate. For example, there's a scene of Izzy in the middle of the Bright House contemplating whether to get more glitter before Violette's arrival, and then literally the next panel is suddenly at the open door greeting Violette. No interstitial frame including a knock at the door or even a knock sound effect. But okay, here's a better example. Let's go back to the scene of Violette tripping over the hose. We go from her and Izzy talking on a path to immediately her about to water the flowers with the hose already wrapped around her leg. How did either of them not notice the hose wrapped around Violette's leg? And these transitional frames are constantly missing, making the story flow awkwardly at times. You can't just cut from one conversation or scene to another without proper flow. And furthermore, dinosaur vagina. Anyway, after the main melody incident, the poor filly runs off embarrassed and cursing herself when suddenly she comes across a couple of zebras and Wait, what? Okay. I mean, it's cool whenever G5 brings in new equines or species every once in a while, but zebras perceivably haven't existed since Twilight's reign. Remember how in G4 Zecora was conceivably the only zebra in Equestria? And it wasn't until season 10 that we actually encountered a zebra nation. And that was a big deal, and treated the situation with intrigue with interesting characters and lore. Here it's just, hi, we're zebras and we just happen to live here and we just so happen to come across you crying filly. Okay, to be fair, it's not completely random that they showed up, but I'll come back to that later. Oh, and apparently there's a zebra community that's apparently been living just outside of Maritime Bay. Did Cantor Logic just not see them as a threat because they look close enough to Earth ponies? I don't know. Anyway, moving on. So the zebras, Mariama and Sky, attempt to console Violette, with Marie telling the Earth pony about her struggles with Earth ponies who rebuked her for being different.
Don't stand too close, Billy. You'll catch it stupid.
She attempted to hide her true colors by painting herself, but that didn't work. And she realized she should embrace her differences and hold her head high. And we get this nice little dialogue of her saying that if ponies don't want to be her friend because she looks different, then she doesn't need them in her life. Simple, but great message. And it's here where almost immediately things go downhill. Despite Mariama revealing this meaningful story to help Violette, she completely disregards the lesson, saying that the zebra just doesn't understand her pain, like she didn't even pay attention to the story. And then there's Sky, a zebra Violette just met, offers to willingly be her friend. But what does she tell her? She says all she wants is more unicorn friends like her and not weirdos like a zebra.
What an asshole!
Yes, I understand she's in a vulnerable and desperate state, but one of the first dialogue exchanges between her and Izzy was asking if her friends were nice, i.e. ponies that would not bully her like they would in Bridlewood. These zebras have shown nothing but kindness, bringing her into their home, willing to befriend her, giving her sage advice about how they got through a difficult part in their lives, and even offers her to stay for dinner. And in return for their goodwill, Violette calls them weirdos and just leaves.
What a bitch.
But before Violette ditches them, Marie gives the filly a potion that will quote-unquote fix her problem. She quaffs it down instead of following the instructions of drinking only a few sips. It works at first, giving her a uniform color, but soon her coat goes all haywire, shifting between one crazy design to the next. She runs back to Izzy and the others, where, to her shock, Izzy, the creative mayor, loves the look of the filly. Marie and Sky promptly arrive on the scene, and they, along with Izzy, reveal that it was their plan to, quote-unquote, help Violette with her acceptance issues, which I'm not entirely clear on. I get that bringing Marie in would be a good proxy to tell a story of how she accepted being different, but did they plan on her taking a large amount of the potion? What would have happened if she just took a couple sips as instructed? Would anything for her code have changed? And what was supposed to be the lesson? Take the easy road and fix all your problems? And it's not like this is a Machiavellian scheme weeks or days in the making. No, Izzy literally contacted Marie while they were at May Melody, which means that it was pure luck that Izzy not only got a hold of the zebras, and even greater luck that they happened to come across Violette after she ran away. And furthermore, Marie had that potion of acceptance ready to go in a vial and didn't have to brew it at all, along with the cure for it. Or did she just brew it insanely fast when Izzy called? Also, if she and Sky accept how they look, why keep such a thing around? A reminder of taking the easy path is a sign of weakness? Maybe? But the whole reveal just turns the thing into a jumbled mess.
It just raises too many questions.
There's also this kind of interesting element that's essentially a throwaway scene at the end revealing that Violette may be a painted horse, a thought-to-be extinct race that has healing properties. Which is kind of interesting, but being right at the end, it doesn't leave an impact. Plus, there's this forced, convenient personality trait about their race that says they accept ponies of all kinds despite being hated by others. And we end with Izzy giving Violette a necklace to remind her it's okay to be different and hold her head high through adversity. And that was issue number 14. It's kind of a confusing mess. You have a great setup about a character being bullied due to her appearance, something that anyone can relate to, and see how that character embraces their differences and becomes stronger overall. But you throw in this weird bad luck element that is entirely forgotten halfway through the story, and the main moral is kind of pushed aside until the halfway point. Plus, Violette, who the audience is meant to identify with, comes off as kind of a selfish brat ignoring legit help from others and referring to them as weirdos. And this whole scheme between Izzy and the zebras is foggy at best. It's not a bad story, it's just a jumble of too many confusing elements that dampers the impact of the moral. There are decent dialogue exchanges here and there, and several cute moments, but it's not enough to distract from the obvious issues. To make the whole thing flow better, first off, I would just remove the whole bad luck element. It doesn't fit. As Violette's going around town, have some kids stare at her or commenting about her under their breaths, but have other ponies just doing their own thing in the background. Said attention eventually leads Violette running off on her own and runs into the zebras. Have Marie tell her story, maybe expand upon it a little more, showing her holding her head high amongst the other Earth ponies, and Violette takes the story to heart. Skip the whole potion gimmick and have her go into town where some kid teases her, and have her initially respond diplomatically, and when that doesn't work, she merely tells the kid that they're not worth their time and just walks off happy and proud. She then returns to Izzy and the others, telling them about what happened, and ends with her returning home ready to face the adversity back in Bridlewood. The comic starts out with her vulnerable and scared, and shows how she becomes a stronger filly. And that's about it. So let's move on to issue number 15. Another slice of life this week, we catch up with Izzy fixing up her home in Bridlewood, when some decorations fly off into what we all thought was the CMC clubhouse and decides to clean it up and make it a clubhouse for her friends. But it looks like it's inhabited by a demonic presence! No, it's just a bunch of animals, including an owl. I guess this makes this the Owl House. Huh? What the? Oh! Ow.
Well, that was certainly a real hoot.
Oh, sure, laugh at his joke.
Don't worry, Mr. Code. I thought it was an outright joke.
Finally, thank you. I just can't win. Okay, let's get back on focus here. Anyway, the first thing I'll talk about is the art, which looks great. We have Starling and Breckle drawing this story, and they complement each other rather well. The opening shot of Izzy's home sets up the standard for this comic. There's a considerable amount of line work detailing the tree and surrounding foliage. And other than the rare gradient, the majority of the panels are drawn out. The colors are vibrant, and the lighting is dynamic, allowing for some very interesting shots, like with the great use of shadows and shading in the initial animal confrontation. And their faces are rather expressive, with accurate mouths to the rest of their head, which always seems tricky for some artists at a side view. Anyway, as I said, Izzy spends the day looking for various items to decorate the clubhouse, and I think this story, among other G5 tales, really exemplifies her ability to unicycle. Izzy is often associated as a G5 version of Pinkie Pie, and while there are obvious similarities personality-wise with her typical jubilant nature, we've also seen that she inhabits the creativity of rarity. Where some pony would see this couch as trash, Izzy sees opportunity. Hell, there's even a whole episode of Tell Your Tale with her reusing trash. She sees the world with different eyes, which makes her interesting. Moving on, minor nitpick, but while taking the stuff back to Bridlewood, Zip accidentally runs into her and almost immediately takes off, saying that she's busy.
That was a great scene.
Izzy gathers all her friends at the clubhouse, and when they enter, they see that everything is in disarray. Izzy is understandably upset, but through hits, they discovered that the animals had made this abandoned place their home. Both parties reach an amicable agreement, sharing the humble abode, and all is well. So yeah, no major revelations or big character moments, no high stakes, just a story about creating a clubhouse and sharing it with animals. And it does a good job. The story is well paced, and other than that one scene with Zip, there's natural progression of the plot that doesn't feel bloated and just tells its story and leaves on a happy note. The art was good, and it was just a nice, cute story. Nothing else to say, check it out. Well, that's it for today, guys. Until next time, and see ya!